If there's one thing we all have in common, it's that at one time or another, every one of us has dreamed about poking the Pillsbury Doughboy in the belly. The friendly little mascot has been repping the Pillsbury Company for over half a century. But who is the Pillsbury Doughboy? How did he come to be one of the most recognizable mascots in America for generations? Well, today we're going to take a look at the poppin' fresh history of the Pillsbury Doughboy. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other advertising mascots you would like to hear about. Okay, resisting the urge to do a Pillsbury Doughboy voice. Don't do it. Don't do it. Most people assume the Pillsbury Doughboy was created by a mad pastry chef as part of a plot to build an army of doughboys and conquer the world. But history insists this is not the case. The Pillsbury Doughboy, or PBDB if you're saved in his contacts, was actually the brainchild of Rudolph Rudy Pertz, a copywriter at the mammoth advertising agency Leo Burnett. On March 18, 1965, Pertz was trying to come up with a campaign for Pillsbury's line of refrigerated dough products, which included products like cookies, dinner rolls, and biscuits. According to advertising legend, he was in his kitchen testing out the crescent rolls, which required the cook to hit the canister on the edge of a countertop to access the dough. But when Pertz hit his canister on the countertop, he had a vision of a plump little dough person popping out instead. He, may have been cooking more than just crescent rolls. He named the character Poppin' Fresh, as a reference to how the dough was supposed to pop out of the can, and quickly scratched out an initial character design. But that design wound up looking too much like Casper the Friendly Ghost, so artist Milt Schaefer, formerly of Disney Animation, was brought in to make it more distinct. What they came up with was an adorable roll of dough with big blue eyes, rosy cheeks, a friendly smile, and a chef's hat and scarf. According to Pillsbury, the Doughboy stands 8 3/4 inches tall if you count his hat, and he weighs just 14 ounces. So he's a little guy, but he was bound for big things. Pertz initially planned to make Poppin' Fresh an animated character, but after seeing the stop-motion animated techniques used in the opening credits of the Dinah Shore show, he decided he wanted that instead. To pull it off, Pertz brought in the animators of Cascade Studios in Los Angeles, who would then spend $16,000 creating a 3D figure of the Doughboy, the equivalent of about $160,000 today. Talk about dough. The original Poppin' Fresh was made of plaster and foam rubber, with ball and socket joints inside to allow for limited motion. And to execute the movements required for the commercial, the model needed 5 different bodies and 15 different heads. Even with all that, filming the commercial was a painstaking task. Prior to the advent of digital technology, animating the Doughboy required 24 individual shots per second, and his head had to be changed in each frame to make the movements of his mouth match his dialogue. Once animated, the Doughboy would also require a voice. And to that end, Pertz would audition over 50 different actors, including Paul Winchell, the original voice of Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. But the role would ultimately go to actor Paul Frees, the guy who voiced Boris Badenov on the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. All the trouble and expense would all turn out to be worth it when the first commercial starring the Pillsbury Doughboy aired on November 7, 1965. In the ad, the character pops out of a roll of dough in front of a startled housewife and proclaims, "I'm Poppin' Fresh, the Pillsbury Doughboy." He then sings a song about the pleasing scent of Pillsbury products, and the woman, in a moment that would prove iconic, playfully pokes him in the belly, causing him to emit a little hoot. It doesn't sound like much, but it was enough. The public immediately fell in love with Poppin' Fresh. The Pillsbury Doughboy was originally portrayed as a helpful assistant to home chefs, and his active role in the baking process, combined with his cheerful demeanor, made the public see him as an endearing member of the family. Sensing they had something on their hands, Pillsbury put him into every commercial for their product line, including a 1966 ad co-starring Maureen McCormick, who would go on to play Marcia on The Brady Bunch. According to the company, the Doughboy was so successful that within 3 short years of his television debut, he was recognizable to a jaw-dropping 87% of the public. And by the 1970s, hundreds of fans were writing to the company to get Poppin' Fresh's autograph. It's probably delicious. Since then, Poppin' Fresh has starred in over 600 commercials for over 50 different Pillsbury products, playing everything from a poet, to a painter, to a skater, to a skydiver. And he also has a gift for music, because he plays no less than 5 instruments, including the electric guitar, harmonica, violin, bugle, and accordion. In 1999, Advertising Age named him number 6 on a list of the most popular advertising mascots of the 20th century. In 2004, he was inducted into the Advertising Week Walk of Fame. And in 2015, the Museum of Broadcast Communications in Chicago included him in their exhibit about the 10 most popular advertising mascots. The Pillsbury Doughboy is so popular, he's occasionally appeared in commercials for other companies. A 2012 commercial for MasterCard, for example, has him hanging out with other iconic advertising mascots, like Count Chocula, the Vlasic Pickle Stork, and the Morton Salt Girl. And a 2013 ad for Geico has him making his famous giggle as he's being frisked by airport security. Please don't try that in real life. Poppin' Fresh has led a remarkable life outside of commercials as well. To capitalize on his initial popularity, in 1972, Pillsbury began selling a 7-inch latex doll of his character, which became one of the fastest-selling toys in the US. The following year, they debuted a female counterpart named Poppy Fresh, who was also made available as a toy. Despite sharing almost identical names, the company insists the characters are not related. Poppy's toy was also a big seller, leading to even more characters being added to the line, including Grandmommer and Grandpopper, an uncle named Rolly, a son named Popper, a daughter named Bun Bun, a dog named Flapjack, and a cat named Biscuit. Once the public had demonstrated that they were willing to pay good money for Doughboy merchandise, it was open season. Poppin' Fresh quickly turned up on plush toys, cookie jars, alarm clocks, bakeware, and piggy banks, just to name a few. Over the decades, the Doughboy would also become a staple of pop culture. He appeared in the now classic 1996 Simpsons episode Team Homer, as well as a 1999 episode of Family Guy. And of course, in 2009, the Doughboy would be granted the single greatest honor American culture has to offer: a float in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. They should have made him fight the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Believe it or not, Poppin' Fresh has made a handful of enemies over the years. For example, in the early 2000s, he came under fire from health advocates accusing the character of promoting foods high in fat and sugar to children. And in 2010, Pillsbury decided to sue a small local Utah bakery called Dough Girl because they claimed their name and mascot infringed on the Doughboy. It was a case of David versus Goliath, but unlike in the story, the giant corporation won, and the bakery was forced to change its name. Despite the legal victory, the case mostly resulted in a lot of negative publicity for Pillsbury, who, right or wrong, came off like a bully. To make matters worse, the company may well have stolen Poppin' Fresh's design. In 2023, a Pillsbury employee discovered a doodle of the Doughboy flexing his bicep on an old machine panel in a plant located in Springfield, Illinois. Various witnesses have claimed that in the 1950s and 60s, an employee of the plant went around drawing such images on walls in the factory and might have submitted the design to Pillsbury. If it's true, the story would completely upend the company's claim that Pertz created the character in the mid-1960s. In favor of the theory, experts have pointed to the fact that Pillsbury factory workers referred to themselves as Doughboys as early as the 1930s, and the company is known to have sponsored several corporate sports teams that used the name during that era. The character's pose in the drawing is also highly reminiscent of World War II icon Rosie the Riveter, an image that would still have been fresh in people's minds in the 1950s. That being said, while the factory itself dates back to 1949, no one has been able to confirm the age of the alleged Doughboy drawing. Since the death of original voice actor Paul Frees in 1986, Poppin' Fresh has been voiced by a string of performers, including Jeff Bergman, Peter New, Fred Young, Joby Cerny, and Jeremy Geller. And these days, the Doughboy is animated with computers rather than claymation. His appearance has also changed. In 2024, the company tweaked Poppin' Fresh's look in response to a 1% year-over-year decline in sales. His legs got longer, his body got thinner, and his scarf changed from white to blue. Apparently, this will help. But even with all the modern trimmings, the character looks and sounds remarkably similar to how he did in his very first appearance. That's partially because General Mills has a strict policy against altering its branding. But the character's longevity and the decision to redesign him after lagging sales means that the Pillsbury Company believes Poppin' Fresh drives sales. So they don't want to mess with him if they don't have to. And it's not a crazy idea. Studies have shown that brands which commit to long-term campaigns featuring an anthropomorphic character mascot stand to increase their profits almost 10% more than brands that use campaigns without such mascots. In other words, barring some cataclysmic event, the Pillsbury Doughboy will safely outlive us all. Woohoo! So what do you think? Are you a fan of the Pillsbury Doughboy? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out some of these other weird history food videos.